Well, welcome to 2024 and the latest update from the Yarslow Model Railway, and a very wet and wild outside, nice and warm inside the shed here. Not a lot been going on because the weather's been lousy and it's been that kind of time of year when I've had other things to do. But I've set about the new year. I don't have resolutions, but I have set myself a few challenges. So let's talk about the challenges and what's going on in the world of Yarslow Model Railway. I'm going to start in all places in the fiddle yard with a couple of pictures of something I picked up recently from BAD loads, bad loads. These are wagon loads, all handmade. I must say, they're not your kind of cheap, nasty resin print things. These are quite exquisite, if a little expensive, but love them all the same. So I picked up some cable reels and I picked up some wooden crates, and they're now populating around the layout. I also set myself the challenge of mucking around with the consist of the Midworth trains. I had 2 suburban trains plus the DMU set, making 3 trains that shuttled backwards and forwards, but it felt wrong that we had 1 DMU and 3 loco hauled trains. I don't think it would have worked like that. So I brought the Gresley All Third into play, and I've used this 6-wheel brake, which is perhaps a little bit out of period, and I've created a 3rd suburban train which has freed up the DMU to now run a new service which goes from Trinity Square to Retford. Why Retford? I just fancied grounding the layout in an area and saying, look, we have this service that connects Trinity Square, Beckbridge, with another centre like Retford, where you can then get connections to go somewhere else. That felt about right, so that's what's happened. Now, the 2 big challenges this year both revolve around canopies, and you would have seen in the previous video that I started to put together the canopy for the station platform at Yarslow, and this is how far I've got. I've added some triangles and some legs. It's actually wider at the footbridge end than it is at the other end, so I can't just use standard fittings here. I've had to manufacture each of these triangles individually, and it will be covered across the top, and you won't see much underneath anyway, so there isn't a great deal of detail, but this is how far it's come. Here's what it's going to look like from platform 3 on approach, and then this is a view of trains arriving on platform 2. This is what they're going to see. Now, also, as you know, carrying on from last year, I've been trying to northeasternise the layout. Since having joined the North Eastern Railway Association, it struck me that if I'm going to build a layout in that area, it ought to look like something the North Eastern may well have built. And the latest addition to the layout is this L-cut MDF laser cut signal box. It's a northeastern type, and I bought an interior kit as well. The parts allow you to make a left hand or right hand. I'm making a left hand one, so the stairs will be on the left as you look at the front of the box, and it does look a very interesting kit. And here it is, partially built in situ, and I think that's going to look quite splendid sat there where the old one used to be. The old one, of course, was an Airfix kit, which, although is a Great Eastern model, is a bit too far south for Yarslow. And once that's all painted up and detailed, I think that's going to look splendid for us. Now, the layout has gained 2 new engines. The first one is this Y1 class built by Sentinel, and is used for shunting the permanent way yard. Now, she's a mighty fine thing, but there's a bit of a story behind this engine. It came from TMC, the model centre. It's used, and when it arrived, although the body is mint, it didn't run very well. These have double-ended motors running 2 worms and 2 little plastic gears to drive the 4 wheels, and one end of it kept seizing up. So I spoke to a chap called Chris at TMC, who said, well, send it back, we'll put it in the workshop, we'll have a look at it for you. So I duly sent it back. They sent me a prepaid envelope, so it didn't cost me anything to send it back. They had it 3 or 4 days, and it's now back on the layout, and it runs absolutely fine. So if you buy something from a retailer and it doesn't go according to plan, don't just slag them off to everybody you know. Have a word with them, see if they can get it repaired for you, and what you end up with is exactly what you should have, a perfectly decent engine. So shout out to Chris and the TMC boys, thanks very much for providing this Y1. Now I'm going to show you this picture of Hessel in East Riding. This is an uncredited picture that I found on the internet, so if it belongs to you, I'm sorry that I haven't asked permission, but your name wasn't attached to it, so I couldn't get hold of you. Anyway, not the point. There is a second engine coming to the Yarslow layout. I know what it is, but I haven't got it yet. And that is that very recently my wife very kindly agreed to buy me one of the new standard 260s that Hornby have just put out. They're lovely things, and it's coming a little later in the year when I'm fortunate enough to get a birthday. So I know it's coming. I've just got to decide which engine to retire off, because I don't need another engine. It's going to replace one that's already running. I do have a few old ones, but I can't wait. Now back to new developments, and here at Middle Junction, the signal box that used to be at Trinity Square has replaced that old beaten up half-built Midland one that I had. I can't even find the rest of the bits of that, so I suspect that's going in the junk box. Now you'll know that I've had a bit of a bad shoulder for a few months, and it's getting better, but it's not cured, so I'm still on light duties, and one of those light duties has been to try and fiddle and finish all of the rooms in the Trinity Square station building. You'll know that I have done a lot to the cafe, so here's the cafe now with some new suitcases. I still need to make some things to put on the table, but this is coming along nicely. I've done the furniture for the station manager's room, his desk and his fireplace. All of these rooms incidentally sit on false floors that slide into these spaces, and eventually we'll have false walls as well, which I will decorate accordingly to lose the backs of the window frames and that sort of thing. Next to him comes his secretary's room, which at the moment is just a pile of filing cabinets. I haven't got her a desk. I'm desperately trying to find somebody who produces a 3D print typewriter, but I haven't managed to do that yet. And then we have the station store's office with its desk and its stationery and that kind of stuff. And that's followed by the boardroom. Now you can see here that the carpets are just cut out from internet prints. This one hasn't been stuck down, it's gone a bit curly. But you can see you can put a room together with cabinets, chairs and tables, a fireplace. And then those big cabinets are repeated for what will become the ticket office, which is on the ground floor. And finally, I've got a packet of fireplaces, which for the moment I'm putting into spare rooms. I've also got some lovely old Victorian radiators which I'm painting up, and they're really going to make things look really nice. And finally, as part of my order, I bought what in fact is a parish notice board, but I'm going to cut the top off and use this as a notice board outside the goods office at Trinity Square. And that brings us to the big developments at Trinity Square. Looking through the goods entrance here, you get a flavour for it, and that is the canopies. The canopies originally built them out of plastic, but they weren't strong enough and they didn't look very good, so I've resorted back to laser cut MDF trusses and girders. The girders are actually N gauge, the trusses are 4mm, and I constructed the two canopies. They're both 90 centimeters long. They stand on legs of 3mm by 3mm MDF, and I have used MDF laser cut brackets, 2 for most posts and 1 at the end post. And although some of the legs need straightening, I have to say they are forming quite an imposing set of structures on the platform. I'm really liking them. And while continuing with that canopy challenge at Trinity Square, I've made a few other changes, including relocating Yarslow South signal box. It seems to fit better here than the old one, which was very obviously an Airfix kit. So as we're at the start of 2024, I thought I'd have a bit of fun, a bit of a challenge for you guys. The challenge is, here are 10 questions about the Yarslow Model Railway. If you've been listening and watching the videos, all of the answers have been in the videos. So it's not a test as to how much you've been listening, it's just a bit of fun. So here we go. Question 1. In Bridge Street, there's a shop called M.M. Ayres. It's a wool shop. Who is M.M. Ayres? Question 2. This traverser represents the end of the branch line. But what's the name of the station at the end of my branch line? Question 3. Also on the branch, at Butterbump and Mumby station, there's a factory. What's the name of the factory? And if you can't get the name, what does it make? Question 4. Another building for you. This one's at Yarslow, hiding the lever frame. But what actually is this building? Question 5. Just away from the railway now, this cottage. What's the name of this cottage? Question 6, and this one is for those of you who like to watch the running trains. You'll know that on Yarslow I tend to have 2 of everything when it comes to engines. But in terms of diesels, there are 2 classes where I've only got 1 of each. Can you name either of those 2 classes? Question 7. In the summer, my old Trio amplifier blares out commentary for my favourite sport. What is my favourite sport through the summer? Question 8. The permanent way yard at Yarslow has been repurposed. It used to be, in real life, it used to be something else. But what was it before it became the permanent way yard? Question 9, and back to Bridge Street. This grotty pub at the end of Bridge Street on the junction with Station Road. What's the name of this grotty pub? And finally, question 10, a real toughie, this one. Next door to Fred Green's, the printers in Station Road, is this building. What actually is this building? So there we go. Please don't email answers, don't put them in the comments. I'll let you have another video in a few days or so and you can see how well you got on. Now I'm using this picture of my old layout that was in a much smaller shed before I moved house to address the last big challenge of the year, and that is the challenge of signals. You'll recognise this train because it's on the new layout. This is the oil tanks train, and in the foreground you'll see a lovely semaphore signal that is a ratio kit that doesn't work. It was actually made fixed, but my challenge is to build signals that work and to have working signals on this layout. Whether I get to that at the end of 2024, I don't know. I'd love to, and I'd love to get some servos and get them all working and everything else. That is a massive challenge. For the moment I'm dealing with the canopies and I'm dealing with 1 or 2 other projects to get those finished. Once they're done, then we leap into the world of signal and telegraph. Until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.